In today's video, the greatest lie ever told about growing a business. You're gonna see your favorite influencers and you're gonna see the best businesses in the world not doing this, and you're gonna see every single business that's failed falling for this lie. My hopes with this video is not just to help you spot the lie, but to save you thousands of dollars and to save you hours, weeks, months, hell, even years spending time trying to live up to this lie that was never gonna work to begin with. Let's get into it. So, when starting out a business or speaking to a business coach, the first thing you're going to be told is find something you're passionate about and then find a niche where people want you to solve the same problem for them. This could be a product, it could be a service, it really doesn't matter. You need your passions and a profitable niche, and this is where the lie creeps in. So for example, maybe you grew up overweight and you lost all that weight through diet, nutrition, and exercise. Now you can help other people lose weight because you've achieved it for yourself. Similarly, maybe you make amazing videos and your videos gain a lot of traction and lots of followers and engagement. You can now help other people achieve the same thing, and they're willing to pay money to help you get to the goal that you've achieved yourself. Now, most people will start out with these two things and start testing and start seeing what works in the market. But most of the time, you find a niche and you start marketing, but no one really cares. Or if you're super lucky, if you're in the lucky few, maybe you get a couple of leads, some people care, but no one ends up buying from you. And you go back to the drawing board and you start thinking it's an offer problem or a niche problem, not understanding that you're actually supporting the lie. Let me give you two examples, one of a product and one of a service. Back when I was in pharmaceutical manufacturing, I was looking for a manufacturing plant where I could license some of my company's medicines being manufactured in that plant. And so I started taking tours and I was seeing lots and lots of well-manufactured, great plants running at almost zero capacity, meaning they had no companies getting their products manufactured through these plants. And some of them had been shut down, others were on their way, they were operating at losses, and I was speaking to some of them to acquire one of them. Another example is a coach who wanted to help entrepreneurs manage their stress and their time. And when he went out to speak to certain entrepreneurs making more than $10,000 a month, what he learned was that those entrepreneurs don't need help managing their time or their stress. They understand that stress is part of the job, and their stress threshold had adapted and gone up accordingly. So they weren't looking for that service. Now, we have two examples where a service or a product is being offered and no one's buying, no one's availing it. This is the lie. This is also why people will continue to buy the lie. And the lie is you can sell anything to anyone as long as they have a problem that they're willing to get solved for them. And it's partially true. People do have problems and people are willing to pay money to have their problems solved. What no one ever tells you is that they very well might be willing to pay money, but there is no guarantee that they will pay you the money to solve that problem for them. And that's why we have to go back to the drawing board and look at the two things that people are advised to do, which is to find their passion and then check the market to see which of their passions overlaps with the market so that they can satisfy that need in the market. Now, most people, unfortunately, have low self-esteem. Most people don't have the best image, impression, the best concept of who they are. So most people inherently think they're not worthy enough for other people to pay them money to have their problem solved. So most people over-fixate on the profitable niche and they completely ignore who they are and what they've achieved and what they've accomplished. You might be one of those people right now. They automatically jump to the conclusion that their passions are not good enough, actually meaning they're not good enough. And now, on the other side, we also have a few people who are opportunistic. No judgment. They look for holes to fill and they look for whatever's trending and they start offering those services, hoping that people are just going to buy from them. And here's an example of that. Many years ago, I was approached by an agency, a video editing agency, and they said, you know what, Yaya, we're going to edit videos for you and we're going to get you lots of engagement, we're going to get you lots of clients, we're going to get you lots of views, we're going to make you viral, blah, 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 blah. I was like, cool. Tell me how. So they showed me a lot of videos that had none of these metrics, but they were fancily edited. And they were like, yeah, it's the cool editing, you know, you're going to get a lot of views. I was like, well, can you share some client testimonials with me? And I started going down the rabbit hole. I started going deeper. I started probing them because I understand that while editing plays a role, I'm not the sort of person who wants views and engagement, and my people don't respond to hyper fancy editing. They focus more on the content and the context of the content and the information being shared versus how cool I'm looking and what tricks my editor is doing. And at the end of it, I was like, dude, convince me that the cool stuff you're going to do is going to get me what I want. Either show me examples of it having worked for other people in the past, or show me examples of how you're going to do it for me. And the person at the end was like, well, yeah, I think we're not a good fit. And I told him to his face, I was like, yeah, we're not a good fit because you were hoping I would fall for the fancy editing that I refused to fall for. Now, I love all editors, not just my editor, I love all editors. I'm giving an example of how people will try to fool you on a very surface level to try and get you to pay them money. I've had the same discussions with a lot of people who are creatives. For example, thumbnail design. They'll be like, I'll make the best thumbnails for you ever. I'm like, cool, a thumbnail needs a certain CTR, a click-through rate, and it's got to tell a story. Their focus is on the beauty of the thumbnail. And often I find myself explaining to graphic designers that a thumbnail, yes, you need beauty, but beauty isn't what determines whether someone's going to click or not. It's actually the story you're telling within the thumbnail. And so I'm not saying all these people are lying, but I am saying that that agency guy was lying to me, and he was hoping I'd fall for that. And he had a bunch of people who did fall for that because of their lack of understanding and their lack of depth in understanding what actually makes a person succeed vis-a-vis everybody else who's trying to do the same thing. So now I'm going to tell you how to spot depth. Maybe you've been given the same guidance by your coach or your mentors, like, hey, this thing is trending, how about you go do that? People are going to pay you money. No, they're not. I say this with a lot of respect. No, they are not. You cannot convince a random stranger on the internet to give you their hard-earned money for something that you have no idea about, you have no clue about, and you haven't done it for yourself. That's not how the service industry or even the product industry works. You will see tons and tons of products come out every year and they fail miserably. It's not because there's something wrong with the product. It's because there's something wrong with the company behind the product trying to leverage a trend. Trends don't last. Trends are by name, they're transitory. And the worst thing that can actually happen to someone is that they get lucky and they hit it off a trend. And I've met people like that too. I've met influencers, service providers, and business owners who randomly got lucky. And they are the most stressed out people on the planet because they don't understand what made them successful. And most of them very quickly fall down and they spend all their time not trying to grow, but trying to survive, trying to remain relevant. The way to spot this, if someone is providing a service to you, then they're using fancy catchphrases or buzzwords, just ask a couple of questions like, explain to me how this works. Explain to me how, your agency is going to get me views. No, don't leave out the editing, leave out the fancy thing, but tell me, just because something is pretty, does that mean that people are going to sit and watch the entire video? Doesn't make sense to me. If someone's telling you that I will help you get rid of stress and overwhelm, ask them how. How are you going to help me get rid of stress and overwhelm? Have you been in my shoes? Do you know what it feels like to be me? To wake up in the morning, check emails, do this, that, and the other? You want to check if they've walked in your shoes. Because speaking of the opportunistic people, I once met a guy who was going to help entrepreneurs with stress and overwhelm. And I said, have you been an entrepreneur? He's like, no. I said, have you ever faced stress and overwhelm? He's like, no. So I said, how are you going to help people? He said, oh, that's easy. It's all over the internet. I'm just going to Google how to help people with stress and overwhelm, and then I'm just going to sell that to people. It is the most superficial, it is the most disingenuous approach I have ever heard of. And if it was that easy, everyone would be doing it. Forgetting the opportunistic people, going back to most people who are genuinely good, kind-hearted, caring people, and they just have lack of self-esteem. Their lack of self-esteem is leveraged by people telling them, oh, forget about your passions, just go after this, go after entrepreneurs, go after race car drivers, go after rich people, they'll pay you money. And so what happens is it compounds their lack of self-esteem and they keep forgetting their passions, and at the end of the day, they have no clue what they're passionate about. All they're trying to do is find certain markets willing to pay them money. And they keep finding markets, they keep finding profitable niches. No one wants to pay them money. It's not because the niche isn't profitable. It's not because people don't have that problem. It's because the person selling it has lack of evidence in the fact that they are able to solve that problem, or the evidence they have is very, very superficial. It makes sense on paper, it's a buzzword, but the moment you go deeper, there's nothing to it. So my dear friends, the reason for making this video is you are worth it. Understand that everyone's passions deserve to be celebrated. Everyone deserves to live their passion. And there are tons and tons and tons of people willing to pay money for your particular passion. Doesn't matter. There are people who are willing, wanting, and ready to take your help to help them achieve the same. So instead of being niche focused, meaning the niche is going to make me lucky, Be you focused. You are the one that's going to cause success. As long as you've achieved something with that passion, as long as you know how to achieve it inside out, as long as you have such a level of mastery that you can literally predict what's going to happen when other people go through it, people will pay you money. That's how mentorship, coaching, great products work. There's tons and tons of insight. Apple does exactly that. Apple is never the first mover. Apple usually is later to the market, but they've ironed out all the kinks. They know the product inside out, and they then create a product which is bar none. It is an excellent product and caters to everything, and people buy it happily. So bear in mind that if you're trying to sell a random stranger to working with you, and you only have a surface level idea, and you've Googled the solution, you're not going to be able to convince them. They will see through you immediately. And it's much, much better to take something that's close to your heart, because that's sustainable. You will not have to put on suits and make yourself look authoritarian. The mere fact that you talk and you open your mouth and you speak with passion will be more than enough to convince the other person to work with you. I'm out of here. I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.